Gupta turned over the editorship of the handbook to Pat Kelly, and then with Dave Chapman, I became the assistant editor with him. And I became the editor in 2016 for the 2017 edition. It was a very steep learning curve. I had to learn how to use InDesign, and I already knew how to use Word, of course, and Adobe Acrobat, but learning how to use spreadsheets that Dave Chapman graciously gave to me. He was very good at using Excel spreadsheets, and he handed them all over to me. So they've been very, very helpful. And there's a tremendous amount of work that the editor has to do. I also have an assistant editor. It's Chris Malicki in the Mississauga Center. He's an excellent proofreader, and he's a good person to bounce ideas off of. And then the 2018 edition, Randy Atwood at the time was the executive director of the RASC. He suggested maybe I could produce a USA version. It's just a selling ploy, basically, because we just use American cities for the examples that we use and use American spelling. That's basically the differences. But we also have the Astronomical League provide a 3-page section each year, which is very nice to have them on board with us. And I've now just completed 9 editions. And the next one will be the 2026 edition will be my 10th. I don't have any plans to quit yet. So. As I say, the covers are almost set for the 2026 edition. I also am a proofreader for the Observer's Calendar. This is the front cover of the 2025 calendar. I've been a proofreader for several years, beginning when Rajiv Gupta was the editor, then through Dave Lane, Paul Gray, and now Chris Beckett. There's a lot of work that goes into the Observer's Calendar, and Chris Beckett has taken the bull by the horns. He's created a couple of subcommittees that help him with choosing images and text and that sort of thing. Yeah, the fellow who does the layout, or the team of people that do the layout for the journal, is Michael Gatto and Grant Tomchuk in Halifax. And Michael Gatto is also the layout person for the Observer's Calendar. And he does a magnificent job of making sure that the images will show up nicely when they're printed, which is very important, of course, for a calendar like this. I was also invited to be an expert, a proofreader for the Night Sky Almanac, a technical editor, as it were, from the first issue in 2021 to the present. First it was with Dave Chapman. He was also doing it, and now with Chris Vaughn. And then there's been a number of small books that the RASC has published. The Beginner's Observing Guide, The Bog, which is now out of print, but the Explore the Universe was a book intended to replace that Brenda Shaw edited. And Charles Ennis put out a couple of books, Building a Small Observatory, the Solar Observer's Handbook, and David Levy's book, The Night Watchman's Journey, another. And I've been the proofreader for all of those, helping to make them as good as we can make them for the publication in the RASC. And there's one more book coming out soon about Helen Hawk. It's in the proofreading stage right now. And Chris Gaynor is the person that's championing that book, and he's going to put it off to the board of directors for approval that the RASC will print it, sell it. And I'm open to questions if anybody has any. Fire away. Hello?
Just hold on there. So James, oh, we'll do it this way. So James, are you able to tell the members that the breakdown of the observer guide? The observer's
The
handbook?
observer's handbook, you mean?
Yes.
Well, it's a pretty big publication. It has a lot of information in it, and it's probably more for a seasoned observer than a beginner. I would recommend the Night Sky Almanac for a beginner rather than the Observer's Handbook, even though all members receive the handbook. If you had a beginner or a young person wanting to learn the night sky, then you should go after something like the Night Sky Almanac or the Beginner's Observing Guide or the Explore the Universe Guide, because it's aimed more for young people or a beginner learning. But the Observer's Handbook has been around for like 115 years or longer, because just looking at here, we're in the 117th year of publication with the 2025 edition. And there's a lot of information in there. There's like 352 pages of pretty small print. So we talked, we got lots of tables. There's all the information about eclipses that we received from Fred Espenak. There's a lot of information in the Observer's Handbook that came from Roy Bishop when he was the editor. He was the editor for 19 editions. And I don't know if any of you know this, he suffered a massive stroke earlier in the year and is not able to contribute anything, as far as I haven't had any conversation with him since that time. So another person who was really involved and gave a lot of information, particularly the table on the left-hand side of the month-by-month guide, was Dave Lane, who passed away. So I had to scramble and find some way to replace those tables, and I did manage to find a way to do it. I actually produced them myself. So Pat Kelly provides quite a bit of information about the Galilean moons of Jupiter and about Saturn. We have like 65 contributors, and the editor does quite a bit, an awful lot of work to get it going. I started usually toward the middle or the end of January and work right up to about the middle of May, and that's when I put out an email inviting all the contributors to send me their stuff for the next edition. And it takes from the middle of May until probably first week in September to get it all together and get it ready for a thorough proofreading, and then off to the printers by the middle of September. So it's pretty intense through the summer. It's difficult to find somebody who would want to take over this particular chore because it pretty much locks up the summer. And it was nicely suited for somebody that was a university professor or in academic, but not always a great thing for everybody. So does that help?
Yep. And there are some questions in the chat there, if you can take a look at the Zoom chat.
Okay. What kind of changes do I see? I'd like to keep it as evergreen as it can be. There's a lot of the tables in the backside are pretty much established and not and don't change. Particularly when, like I was talking to Blake Nancarroll before he passed away about the night sky gems. It's David Levy's table that was begun by Leo Enright. And David wanted to change it each year, except that there was a program in the RASC that was based on that table. So I convinced David Levy to stop making changes each year because it's an established certificate program now. And the next question is, why do you think the handbook has maintained its popularity in observatories around the world, even in the digital age? Well, you don't need to plug it in. It won't break if you drop it. It's concise. It's got all the information that you would need at a control panel of an observatory or anywhere around the world. And I think that's probably why it's so popular, is because everything that's necessary is there in the one place. And it's easy to crack it open and refer to it. Next question here is from Jay. How many submissions do we have for the calendar? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Chris Beckett had over 200 submissions. And they had to narrow it down to 12, of course. So, yeah, it's a lot of narrowing down.
Wow.
Chris says that he's not really an imager, he's more of a active participant observer. So he has put together a team of people to help select the images to make sure that they're good and will look good on paper. I think a lot of the images that get submitted, some of them might be better than others, of course, but there's some of them that are really good that we could probably use in the journal. So we've asked Chris to supply some of those to us, to Nicole Mortellaro, so she can pick some of those out and use them in the journal center pages. And speaking of the journal, I don't know if anybody has made any comments or has any observations about the parts that we would put into the centerfold spread to include the star map and the month, the events that used to appear in Sky News. And Scott Young was helpful with a few of those, and I've taken over the production of the centerfold spread there for the what's up in the sky each month for each issue. Thoughts about putting some color into the handbook? No, it's far too expensive. So we do have an ad in the handbook this year. It'll be on the inside front cover. And I'll just let you explore that when you receive your handbook. They should be coming out any time now because they've been at the printer for 3 weeks or even longer. Middle of September, I sent them to the printer. So anything else? That said, then I'll sign off.
Well, thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
inviting me. Appreciate Judy Anderson giving me the invitation. It's been good to be able to talk to you all.
Nice to see you again, James.
Thank you.
Okay.
I got to go and give our cat some medicine right now to keep her going. So I'm going to sign off. Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask James. I understand Stacey might be able to want to pass on tonight if we have time.
How do we do this? Hey, Ed, do you have Stellarium on your computer? Good.
I have my laptop. It's in the car though.
Okay, just hang on. How are we getting?
Sorry, James, I volunteered you.
Okay, no problem. So what we're trying to do here is, I fascinated by Mike's Jupiter pictures. And around Jupiter are the Galilean, the 4 bright moons that you can see around Jupiter. You don't need a super powerful telescope for those. There's probably people online that can't hear me.
Yeah, give him the microphone.
Okay, how's that? Is that better? Hey, okay, I'm James, by the way. Hello, everybody. So what we're gonna just queue up here is just a quick little demonstration using Stellarium. So Jupiter is rising up earlier and earlier in the evening, and kind of rising out 9:30, 10 o'clock, pretty low. In the morning, you get up in the morning, 6 o'clock before sunrise, and you look to the south, up high is Jupiter. Jupiter has 4 bright moons around, and you can see it even just a low power binocular. What do you need, sorry?
The lights down.
Oh, you want the lights down? Okay, perfect. So those moons, those 4 bright moons, you can look around with binoculars or a telescope, but they orbit around and they do kind of funny things. They kind of crisscross paths and they do all kinds of fun stuff. And so I've kind of made a little bit of a chart, a calendar of events that I posted to Groups.io. So if you are on Groups.io, you can just subscribe to the solar system subgroup. That's in there. It's a little complicated. It's still a bit of a work in progress. But coming up this week on Wednesday night, there's kind of a really neat dance that the moons around Jupiter are going to do. Now this is an event that takes several hours to happen. It's in the middle of the night. So if you have to go to school or to today, which many of us have to do. Where are we? So we're going to go here to, what did I say it was? The 23rd? The morning of the 23rd, correct? So Jupiter is going to be up here, nice and high. We're going to center in on Jupiter, and then we're going to zoom right in. So here are some of the moons. Let's back up just a little bit more. Sorry, can I clip this on somehow? There we go. Can you still hear me? Does that work? All right. Okay, let's back this time up just a little bit more. We've got a little bit of time. So we're going to go now here. We're at like about 1 o'clock in the morning. And we can see, here's Europa as one of those moons. And here's Ganymede and Callisto are kind of way around here. If we back out a little bit more, that's kind of in a low power binocular. That's kind of what you would see, or medium power binocular. That's what you would see in a high power telescope or a low power telescope. You should be able to resolve these 2 moons fairly closely. There we go. There's Io. Okay, so here are Jupiter's 4 Galilean moons. Europa down there, and there's Io there, and Ganymede and Callisto. Give me a second. I'm going to bring up my notes that I posted just to help me. So this is in Groups.io. There we go. Now you're going to. So starting at around 1:27 in the morning, let's bring up our clock again. So we're going to just advance our time here a little bit. At 1:27 in the morning, Io is going to go into Jupiter's shadow. So if Jupiter casts a shadow into space, right? At opposition, when Jupiter is opposite the sun, then the shadow is pointing straight away. Well, Jupiter is kind of more in quadrature right now, so the shadow of Jupiter is kind of going off to the side, almost like the tail of a comet. So Io right here, let's make sure I'm saying this right. All right, so yes, so we can see 4 moons here, right? So we're going to advance our time here a little bit. Io is going to dip into shadow, into that shadow. You could just see how it disappeared there. It didn't go behind Jupiter. It just went in behind into the shadow of Jupiter. And you'll watch it in over a few seconds. It'll just slowly fade out, maybe a minute or so, and it'll disappear, right? And it's going to stay there. It's going to stay in shadow, and it's going to continue to go behind Jupiter. But now we only have 3 moons that are visible. One just disappeared on us, right? Now, watch over here. Europa's down here. It's just not part of the fun. But over here, Ganymede and Callisto are fairly close together. And let's advance our time just a little bit further and watch what happens to Ganymede. So here we go. Now we're at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:15. And what did we say it was? Oh, yeah. Just after 3 o'clock in the morning. Ganymede is going to also disappear into that shadow. And there it goes. Now we only have 2 moons. What happened to 2? Well, one's behind Jupiter and the other one's in the shadow. Now watch this. A little bit later, watch kind of over here on this side, on the trailing edge of Jupiter. Jupiter is moving across the sky, left to right. Watch what happens on that side of Jupiter. All of a sudden, we're going to get Io pop out from behind Jupiter. Now we're back to 3 moons, which is kind of fun. But something cool happens here, which doesn't happen too often. Remember that shadow that Jupiter casts into space? Well, it's just the size of Jupiter, right? So Ganymede, that's now disappeared into that shadow. Watch this. We're going to advance the time a little bit more. Before it goes behind Jupiter, it's going to pop back out right into there. And then eventually it's going to go in behind Jupiter. But by then, Jupiter's going to be sky's going to be getting brighter. And it's eventually going to go in set and wait till the next day to do it all over again. But anyway, that's a little bit of fun with Jupiter's moons. So hope you found that interesting.
That's the morning of the 23rd, the night of the 22nd.
Correct. Yeah, the morning of the 23rd. So if it's clear and you have, you can be up. I plan to maybe go sleep for an hour and then get up and have a quick peek, right? Because if you have just binoculars, if you can mount them on a tripod, even better. You just go have a quick peek, maybe bring them into the sunroom or something, and then go back out, have a quick peek. Oh yeah, there it is. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to come ask or send me a note on Groups.io.
Thank you very much, James. So that concludes our meeting for tonight. And there's a get together over at Boston Pizza on Pembina. And I'm sure it'd be nice to get together over there if you got time, and we'll all have a great night. So safe drive home and take care.
That was very rare.
Whose phone is this?
Huh?
Whose phone is this?
I don't know. Name?
All of a sudden, no, you know what? I just saw it. Okay, so I had that behind. No, So yeah, I think we find out. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. I think I might you go to the.
Did I use a USB? You yanked it out.
No, long time ago.
Yeah, you're.
No time. So it looked like something like this, maybe that I forgot and retrieve it or something. I'm just.
I don't remember seeing one. Yeah, sorry.
If you look for it maybe or
Okay.
yeah, I had this left over and.
Yeah, I haven't, I'm pretty sure I've never